As far as your expectations, are you focused on these Mag 7 names we're hearing from? Or are you more interested in some of the other names?
I'm really focused on the Mag 7 names, specifically the three leaders, really, Nvidia, Google, and Amazon. Nvidia is the toll collector, Amazon's the landlord, and Google is the advertiser in terms of the revenue stream. And so, basically, Nvidia controls the AI highway. Every model, every data center, every hyperscaler runs through them. Amazon has the distribution advantage with AWS. So as AI moves from build out to deployment, they're really the ones collecting recurring revenue. And Alphabet is the sleeper. They're using AI as enhancing their search, driving engagement, and their cloud business is finally scaling. So you've got infrastructure, distribution, and monetization. And so that's why those three lead the Mag 7 today.
As they lead, what does that really say about the rest of big tech here? Are they stalling or are they just lagging?
Well, outside of Nvidia, the rest of the Mag 7 have been lagging except for Google and Amazon. And so this is really a three-stock trade out of the Mag 7. And as long as we have these three generals carrying the load of the Mag 7, the market can hit new peaks and new heights. But if Nvidia sneezes or one of them sneezes, the whole market could get pneumonia.
So do we think there's a possibility where Apple and or Microsoft could reassert themselves as the leadership here? Or have we just structurally shifted away from them in the markets?
I think we're structurally shifting away from them. Good on earnings is not good enough. We have to exceed expectations, use monetization from MI to enhance earnings and revenues. And those three leaders that I've mentioned have the best option to do that. Microsoft and Meta would be my next picks. And of course, Apple and Tesla are at the bottom of the Mag 7 at this time, as far as holding them as a trade, where in 2021 and 20, owning those seven were all winner, winner, chicken dinner. That's not where we are today. We're in a selective tech environment. It's not all for one. You have to own the ones that are going to do well, or you're going to get left behind.
And Jeffrey, Alex Coffey and I were just talking about what you just said. Good is no longer good enough. We were looking at Corning, and I was talking about UPS even this morning. And what is better than good? How good do we have to be when the expectations are already so high, particularly for the three Mag 7 names that you say are prime for success here?
Well, I think really they've got to exceed guidance by a healthy margin. And so what would that be, 5-10%? And what we saw last quarter was Nvidia blew out guidance, Meta blew out guidance, and the market was in a sell mode. And even though their earnings were phenomenal, what happened? They fell on good earnings. And so, I'm not saying that's going to happen again, but the possibility is there because the macro environment is uncertain right now, and rates are compressing profits. As rates go higher here, we're going to see sell-offs like we have today. And so it's the old story, rates go up, market prices fall. And so, for those three leaders, though, that we're speaking about, Marley, I really think that you want to start buying the dips, dipping your toes in at this time. And so we may not see these stocks cheaper than this ever again in the next 6 months.
All right, so let's play devil's advocate here because you just mentioned the uncertain backdrop that we have right now. So I feel like this question needs to be asked. Of the three that you're focused on, which one is at the greatest risk of potentially disappointing? And what happens to the market if that happens?
Well, I think they're all three in the stack for AI, the leaders of AI right now in terms of the hyperscalers and with Nvidia providing the infrastructure. I think that the biggest one that would hurt the market the most if it sneezed or lowered guidance or had some type of negative tone to their earnings would be Nvidia. And that would cause a massive sell-off. And when valuations get stretched like this, Marley, the market really becomes codependent on movement forward on earnings only. And so earnings have got to be greater than expected. Or we take a hiccup here because valuations are technically stretched. Now, in the Mag 7 minus Tesla, we're at 30, 35 times earnings right now on a forward basis. That's not too bad. I wouldn't say it's overbought, but we are pushing the boundaries of the norm here. And so one hiccup from any of the three, and we could see the bubble actually get popped by that little pinprick because valuations are stretched.
So let's focus on Nvidia there, because you're not the first person to make the analogy that if Nvidia sneezes, the market gets pneumonia, and there's a huge effect. And we've seen it before. If that happens, take me through the chain reaction, particularly because their earnings come at the end of earnings season. We won't hear from them almost for another month. They're May 20th. So we've got a few weeks here. Where do we see the biggest fallout if Nvidia falters in any way?
Well, I think in all of the hyperscalers, obviously, and in all of the infrastructure plays, in the broader market and energy. And so Nvidia is seeding every sector, every industry with AI technology to improve earnings and efficiencies. And so, it could crush the market, basically. I don't see that happening. I'm not a doom and gloomer here. I think the bullishness on Nvidia is very strong for the next 12 months. But if there was a curveball that came out, something went wrong, that would basically collapse the market. So Nvidia's valuations today are easily justifiable. We don't see that happening over the next 12 months.
All right. So with what you just said there with the bullish outlook, you expect this rally that we're seeing, despite the slight pullback today, to continue?
I do. And with the macro uncertainty, we'll see the market ebb and flow here. With potential for larger drawdowns based on energy, based on rates, based on geopolitical, and based on the Fed's posture. And so, with every new Fed chairman, we see the new Fed chair getting tested by the markets. And so he's gonna have to come right out of the gate here, Warshiz, and set the tone. And hopefully he's gonna be speaking and he's saying what the market wants to hear.
You guys missed it. My next guest, he was a matchbox. He just morphed into where he is right now. He says, forget about Mag 7, folks. Focus on the AI revolution, 7. That's right. Want to bring in Hennigan and Walsh Asset Management, President and CIO, Kevin Mon. All right, Kevin, so the Air 7.
Yes.
These are the stocks. These are the industries. What's the premise here?
Yeah, move over Mag 7, make way for the Air 7. I believe this is a more diversified way to play the most compelling theme in the market today, that being the AI revolution. These are my top 7 stocks within the AI revolution. Notice, though, Charles, they're all across the AI ecosystem.
Right.
I have a software play with Google.
You got semiconductors, you got chips, you got data centers, you got memory, you got power. So one thing that leaped out at me immediately, because I've seen a lot of different variations of the new Mag 7 or the new whatever, Air 7, I love the name.
Yes, thank you.
You may hear from Jordan later on, Michael Jordan, but that's different. That's between you and him.
He jumps a little harder.
Right. SanDisk not on the list.
Yes.
SanDisk, what's going on?
So I don't dislike SanDisk, but I like Micron more. They have more pricing power. They have more market share. They also have HBM. They have DRAM, whereas SanDisk just focuses on NAND. I like Micron. They're only trading at just over 8 times forward earnings.
That's the conundrum for a lot of people, right? The stock was here, look, around $70. Now it's $500, and this is within a year. It's breaking out, no doubt about it. And, it looks phenomenal, but some folks still have trouble chasing this name.
I know, but if you could buy it at 8 times forward earnings with that growth rate in the insatiable demand for memory, I think there's more upside from here.
All right, DLR, I want to bring this up because, this is sort of off the beaten path. But again, there's a lot of beneficiaries from this. Digital Realty Corp, or Trust, is one. And it sort of was sideways. It had a couple of gaps down, but it's breaking out big time right now. Why now? Why is it starting to get a hit a stride?
I've liked Digital Realty for a while. They are a real estate investment trust. They pay a decent dividend, but they also own and operate 300 data centers across the world in 31 different countries, and they're just getting started. They're going to be the primary benefactor of all this data center construction in our view.
And the dividend, about 4 or 5% yield?
Just over 2%.
Let's talk about power right now. And what I really love with this whole power area, we saw last week with the White House, right, this latest effort by the president to really push, right, grid infrastructure and its associated upstream supply chains, including transformers, transmission lines, conductors, substations, high voltage circuit breakers, power control, electronics. It goes on and on and on. I don't think that this whole play would be as big as it is right now if it wasn't for the backing of this administration.
Without a doubt. And the AI revolution starts and stops without memory and power. And the administration is right to address the need for more power solutions. But as it stands right now, Charles, you have to look to the utilities of the states that a lot of these data centers operate within. Right. And that's where I find the compelling investment opportunity.
Let's talk about one idea, Vertiv. Now, we've been talking about this on the show for a while now, and we smoothed out the chart, but there are times when it kind of hits these air pockets. Is that just par for the course? For someone watching, you buy this occasionally, you wake up and it might be down a lot.
Yes.
It's just maybe a periodic consolidation of gains.
Yes, and their competitors nipping at Vertiv's heels right now, whether it's Modine Manufacturing, Comfort Systems, Train Technologies, but Vertiv's been at it the longest. They used to supply cooling solutions to mainframe data centers. Now they're providing them for AI-oriented data centers. These data centers run hot, and Vertiv provides the cooling that they need.
Okay, American Electric Power, we're going to look at that as well. AEP, again, all of these charts obviously have that same look to them because they're riding this AI wave. The only question is how long will it go on?
Right, so AEP supplies electricity to 5 million customers in 11 different states, with one of those states being Virginia, the data center capital of the world. And as it stands right now, these data centers can't supply their own power, so they have to turn to these utility companies. They pay good dividends, they hold up well in the face of volatility, and they're a backdoor play into the AI revolution.
I was reading a note, I made a bar chart of it, but we're going to bring it up with the Mag 7 and its contribution to the overall S&P. So in 2023, it was 62%. 2024, 54%, 2025, 43%. Is it right with 1% right now?
At the end of last week, it was less than 1% from a contribution standpoint. Now, that's good and bad because most retail investors have exposure to the Mag 7. So we can't grow this rally at the expense of the Mag 7. But if you're looking for a more diversified play to tap into the AI revolution, I think the Air 7 will allow you to do that. Year to date, if you equal weight those 7 names, Charles, it's up about 36%.
And by the way, of the Mag 7, you do still like Google and Nvidia. Why those? Nvidia, by the way, is looking amazing lately.
Yeah. Nvidia is the hub of the AI ecosystem. They continue to diversify their revenues into data centers and Alphabet, Gemini-powered search. You have the Waymo cars, autonomous cars, and then, of course, YouTube.
I started with some of these niche ideas, these bottlenecks.
Yeah.
They've been phenomenal. Are you digging into those areas? Like, for instance, Intel talked about substrates, right? And I'm looking for glass plates. Yeah, I find myself going to engineering school all of a sudden because these stocks are up so much.
I know, and that's why we continue to look for the next ancillary benefactor. When we found Vertiv, we said Vertiv doesn't have a monopoly on cooling solutions, so where are their competitors? When we found Digital Realty, who are the other major data center construction companies? You continue to turn over these stones, you're going to find attractive investments.
Go down those rabbit holes and get rewarded.
Yes, sir.
Great stuff, Kevin. Great starting the show off with you.
What is the number one thing? Is it basically justifying the big CapEx that we're going to be looking at for today?
That's one of the biggest questions we've gotten going into it is, are these companies going to raise their fiscal 26 CapEx guide? And the precedent from last year would say yes, because last year, as the year was progressing, the CapEx kept rising in absolute dollar terms. But going into it, we actually kept our CapEx forecast for Alphabet, Amazon, and Meta intact. We're right around where they guide it. And the main reason is they gave themselves wiggle room when they set the CapEx guide at the 4Q prints. And what I mean by that is Amazon exited 2025 at about a little over $150 billion of CapEx. They set their CapEx guide at $200 billion for fiscal 26. Alphabet gave themselves more room. They exited over $110 billion. They got it to $180 billion at the midpoint. And Meta, it was a similar kind of story. They gave themselves $40–50 billion of wiggle room, which are big dollars and gives the companies an opportunity to have CapEx step up over the year. But yeah, so we don't think they're going to raise. Some investors have said, oh, maybe, kind of Alphabet and or Meta raises at the low end, but we're either at the midpoint or high end for all the guides. So, but that is going to be, a big one for tonight. And it's obviously a big night, as you alluded to.
Was yesterday instructive at all, John, for understanding how this market might react? Just a Wall Street Journal story about Sarah Fryer at OpenAI questioning or discussing not being able to hit the internal targets and that being enough to cause a market sell-off. Does it feel like we're just at a very fragile moment that not getting close or even just meeting expectations is just not enough?
Yeah, it's a good question. I think tonight we're going to get some data points that are going to be impactful one way or the other for the stocks. And I would go to just talk about Amazon and Alphabet here, their cloud businesses. Another big topic will be, what is the revenue growth at AWS? What is the revenue growth at Google Cloud? At AWS, investors are looking for high 20s, low 30% revenue growth versus 24% in 4Q. And that growth is being driven by their AI stack and their core business. And one positive, in CEO Jassie's shareholder letter from a couple of weeks ago, he said, "Oh, AWS AI revenues at a $15 billion run rate, which is more than what we had modeled." So I thought that was instructive and helpful. But that's a key number tonight: AWS top line growth, and then Google Cloud saw massive acceleration in revenue growth in 4Q. And investors are looking, it grew 48% year over year. Investors are looking for mid 50s to mid 60% growth. So another big step up acceleration in Google Cloud revenue growth. And that's been driven by their AI stack, their leading model Gemini, their chips. And the other thing that's interesting about Google Cloud that's instructive as well is last year they signed more $1 billion deals than the prior 3 years combined, which gives us a little insight into the demand for their cloud business, and also kind of governs what they're spending on CapEx, because they're doubling CapEx this year.
Hey, John, I got less than a minute here, but I just wonder how much you're going to hear from these companies about efficiencies. The news, for example, from Meta to cut 10% of its workforce. Will that also be a defining feature?
Yeah, we'll get headcount. We'll get headcount. It's a little bit skewed because with the rising CapEx, you have rising depreciation, which we're going to see, and that's expected. Meta actually guides to a full year OpEx guide. So I think people are looking to see, are they gonna cut that at the low end because of these headcount cuts. But yeah, and it'll be interesting to see what the margins look like.